Howdy. It's been a couple weeks since DevStream 185, and there are quite a few big changes happening, and it's just 2 days away from the update on March 19th. So I thought I'd go over some of the changes that we're getting with the Pseudo-exalted rework, some exalted weapon changes in general, as well as the new Arcanes and the new Augments we're getting. Because I've got a few ideas with all of the wacky stuff that's going to be happening. So let's go over to the DevStream overview. Okay, so first thing before we get to the Pseudo-exalteds are the Arcanes and then the Augments, because these are fairly interesting, I'd say. So we are getting 3 new Arcanes. Damn, I could have sworn it was 4. 3 new Arcanes, and they are all for our Warframes, I believe. The first one is Arcane Escapist. On Mercy Kill, can a... what? Gain? I think is this what it's supposed to say? That definitely looks like a typo. On Mercy Kill, gain a stack of Escapist up to 10 times. Every 5 stacks grants a revive in 12 seconds of invulnerability after fatal damage. This is pretty interesting because it lets you be very, very tanky if you were able to spam Mercy Kills. Because, I mean, auto revive in 12 seconds of iframes is kind of crazy, especially on like the high end if you're doing level cap stuff. Having to get 5 Mercy Kills for it can be a bit annoying, because I do believe Mercy Kill specifically is in reference to kills with your Parazon, not kills that are like finishers. And I personally do not care much for trying to do that, but if you can manage it, this would actually be pretty great. The second one is Arcane Hotshot. Gain 6% weapon crit chance for 10 seconds when using abilities to inflict heat status on enemies. Maximum 50 stacks. That is a whopping 300% crit chance. And it just says for weapons, meaning this should work on your primary, your secondary, your melee, maybe even arc guns. So any Warframe that can consistently apply heat procs can get 300 crit chance for the weapons, which is just wow, very much wow. Yes, this is going to make people that use the guns platform or weapons platform Ember very happy, I'm sure. There are other weapons or other frames, I mean, that can make use of this. I'm sure there's going to be some kinky Lavos stuff you can do if you spam heat on Lavos. Very interested to see what can be done with this. And this should also be able to work on Hildren, assuming you use the Blazing Pillage augments, because you can apply heat that way. 300 crit chance for Blazing Pillage, that, or for all of your weapons. That could be valuable. And as a Hildren main, I am very excited to try this out. The last one is Arcane Universal Fallout. Each radiation status effect inflicted on enemies gives X chance to drop a universal orb on death. X, so I don't know what the actual value is. I did not watch the whole dev stream. I haven't had the time to, but I guess we'll see what it is when it comes out. So universal orbs, I'm not really sure how I feel about that. Honestly, all of the frames in the game right now that can apply radiation consistently enough that this matters, it's not really needed, because I don't feel like you need the energy on any of those frames. And yes, it does just say radiation status effect not from your Warframe, so your weapon should be able to do it. But why are you going to be building for radiation procs on your weapon? That's not really something you usually do. Who knows, it might be valuable, but as of right now, I don't really think that it's going to be all that great. Now going down, we have the new Augments, which are also fairly interesting. We're getting 4 of them, 1 for Wisp, 1 for Kome, 1 for Corvex, and 1 for Gyre. Starting from the top, Soulgate Augment. Wisp and 2 spectral images cast a single blast of Soulgate, leaving a radiated fire zone on the ground for X seconds. This is really interesting because it sounds like it's going to completely change what the 4 does, from a cast ability that is then channeled to a just single cast one and done, like a big explosion. And I'm very curious to see if the damage is actually usable, because right now most people don't use Soulgate. I have my Wisp set up for a really funny Soulgate build. You can probably find that on my YouTube channel somewhere if you want to see that. So it will have to be really good and, more importantly, entertaining to be worth using over what I use right now with Soulgate. But it sounds like it's pretty interesting, so we'll have to see how that comes out. Omikuji Augment for Kome. Reduce Omikuji's cooldown by X seconds when you kill an enemy with the weapon affected by Kome's passive. I'm going to be totally honest, I don't actually remember which ability Omikuji is. I think that's the one that gives you the decrees, right? Probably pretty sure about that. I can't remember the names on all of her abilities because I forget all the time. If this is that one, then that's going to be interesting. If it's any of the other abilities, that is worthless and it makes no sense. So it probably is the one that gives decrees. That would help a lot for getting your decrees built up a lot faster, so that's cool, I suppose. Though honestly, I feel like this should be in the base kit. It seems kind of like a band-aid augment to fix the fact that you have to wait 10 years to build up your decrees. The third one is Crucible Blast augment for Corvex. Crucible Blast becomes a channel ability consuming X energy per second that ramps up. Active pillars will trigger chain reactions and free their duration, but your mobility is greatly reduced. So this kind of just turns Corvex's Crucible Blast into Soulgate. Soulgate gets a thing that turns it into Crucible Blast, and Crucible Blast gets a thing that turns into Soulgate. Very strange sounding. I'm not sure if this is going to really be worth running. Honestly, as someone that has been using Corvex decently as of late, I don't feel like this sounds all that useful, especially when you have to use it in place of another mod in your build. It might be good, but again, we'll have to wait and see when it comes out in 2 days from now. The last one is the Arc Sphere augment for Gyre. Projectiles that pass through Arc Sphere have a guaranteed electricity status effect and X% electricity damage. This sounds interesting, kinda, sorta, not really that great. There's already lots of ways to get electricity damage onto your weapons, and having to shoot through the Arc Sphere doesn't sound very comfortable, especially in a lot of fast-paced gameplay, and it completely goes against how you're normally playing on Gyre, running around all the time. So I really don't think I would want to run this, but it might have some niche use. Now that's it for the augments and the arcanes. We can go on to the really, really interesting stuff, which is the changes to exalted weapons and pseudo-exalted weapons, which is a very, very big overhaul to how all of that works, and is going to hopefully make a lot of the exalteds that are not so great into actually usable. Because right now, while a lot of them you can force into being good just by the absurd amount of buffs you can get in this game, they're not really worth using on a general basis. So changes to current exalted weapons. Arcane slots on exalted weapons. This is something that the community has been asking for a very, very long time. It's about damn time that we got it. I am so excited for this on Hildren. Her Balefire putting on Arcane Fortifier, or Secondary Fortifier is what it's called, so that you can pulverize Overguard and give it to yourself. That is going to make Hildren a lot easier to play on level cap stuff. Very, very glad about this change. I am so freaking happy with it. Exilus mod slot on primary and secondary exalted weapons. That's okay, I guess. I mean, Exilus mods don't really matter oftentimes, and I don't think that's going to matter much for the weapons, but that's there, I suppose. And lastly, Acolyte, Amalgam, and Melee combo counter mods enabled for exalted weapons. So something like Blood Rush that you normally could not put on an exalted melee, like, dang it, what is it? Why can't I remember the Excalibur's weapon? The Exalted Blade, I think that's what it's called. You could put Blood Rush on it and get a crap ton of crit chance. That is going to help a lot as well. Arcane slots on exalted weapons, they go into a little more detail. It has something to do with Garuda's Talons, right? While Garuda's Talons are part of her passive ability and therefore not an exalted weapon, we are adding an arcane slot to them nonetheless, so that's nice. Pseudo-exalted could achieve the effects of certain arcanes on exalted weapons by equipping them on corresponding regular weapons. With the changes above, these interactions have been removed. So no more weird kinky stuff to put the arcanes on them, but they just work naturally by equipping them. Specific Warframes that benefited from these effects will be receiving a new exalted weapon, which is outlined later in this dev workshop. So all of the frames that had pseudo-exalteds will now have proper exalted weapons that are modded separately. That means all of the casual players that have no idea what a pseudo-exalted weapon is will finally be able to use these abilities to some level of success. Exos mod slot on primary and secondary exalteds. They give a little more stuff about that. I don't think it really matters though. Now they give a list of all the Acolyte, Amalgam, and Melee combo counter mods that are enabled for exalted weapons. For primaries, there is Amalgam Serration, Argon Scope, Galvanized Scope, Bladed Rounds, and Catalyzer Link. For secondaries, we get Amalgam Barrel Diffusion, Embedded Catalyzer, Hydraulic Crosshairs, Pressurized Magazine, Sharpened Bolts, and Targeting Subsystem. And for melee, we get Amalgam Organ Shatter, Blood Rush, Body Count, Dispatch Overdrive, Gladiator Rush, Maiming Strike, and Weeping Wounds. Note, if the exalted weapon is unable to trigger the requirements for the mods such as when aiming, for sleight attack, etc., you will not be able to equip that mod for the specific exalted weapon. An example would be Hydraulic Crosshairs on Magus' Regulators. So they can't be equipped on weapons that can't actually make use of them, which is nice so that you don't see it as an option to equip and think you can somehow cheese it and make it work, because it won't work. So it's just not there as an option at all. Other changes to exalted weapons include all exalted stances now grant mod capacity just like regular stances. This is going to help so very much in the case of mod capacity. Makes me feel like an idiot for having 2 Umbral Forma on my Valkyr's Claws, but oh well, I can't go back in time. Additionally, we have applied the Zenric polarity to all exalted stances and their corresponding melee stance slots, providing a +10 capacity boost. Remove the restriction preventing set mods equipped on exalted weapons from contributing to or benefiting from set bonuses. With this change, set bonuses are now calculated based on the active weapon. This means that if you have 3 mod sets equipped on your Warframe, 3 on your melee weapon, and none on your exalted melee, then you will only benefit from the 3 set mods on your Warframe while your exalted melee weapon is active. This is going to make things a little bit annoying if you constantly switch weapons, but you also go around using different abilities and weapons all the time. But overall, it's just going to make things a lot more streamlined and make sense as long as you're holding out the weapon that you want to have the set bonus on. Removed the interaction that caused the combo counter to reset when using the Zorus, Tenant Livia, or Tenant Grigori alongside an exalted weapon. This interaction was added in update 28.1.0 due to it being an overly dominant mechanic that offered infinite combo on exalted weapons when used with gladiator mods. Now that set mods only apply to the current active weapon, the restriction is no longer needed. Makes sense. Excalibur's Exalted Blade and Baruch's Serene Storm abilities can now gain melee combo counter and trigger Tennokai from their exalted melee weapons, wind/energy waves instead of only from direct hits. So basically, before, the little projectiles that would come out from Baruch's fists or the exalted sword on Excalibur, they would not be able to build up combo. So like if I'm running around on Excalibur, I'd have to get direct hits with the sword itself to build combo, and the waves would not be able to do anything. Now it will both build combo while also benefiting from it, which is very, very massive. For balance reasons, Desert Wind's crit chance has been reduced from 50 to 35% to accommodate the above buff. In testing, Serene Storm was overperforming when used with Blood Rush. So the crit chance has actually gone down, but due to the available mods you can put on it, if you build it right, it's actually going to be more powerful and have higher crits than it does currently. Excalibur/Dash now scales with mods equipped on his Exalted Blade instead of mods equipped on his regular melee weapon. Also makes sense because it's always been a pseudo-exalted, which has really been weird since he's had an exalted weapon separately, so to have a pseudo-exalted for his /dash and then exalted as a fourth was a little wonky. Remove the interaction of Razorfly scaling with melee mods equipped on Diwada. This interaction was never intended, alongside only a few mods working with it. To balance this change, we made Razorflies invulnerable, reinforcing their support role rather than their damage potential. We are open to considering additional adjustments as needed. This is a little sad because having Razorflies run around and kill everything was pretty funny if you did a wacky build like that, but it's not going to be an option anymore. But they won't die anymore since they're invulnerable. Thank God. I got real sick of having to recast that stupid fourth ability every time they got pulverized by an AoE attack. New exalted weapons, which is the pseudo-exalteds that have been changed to actual exalteds, which would be on Atlas, Gara, Korra, and Ashe, because Ashe is getting a rework. I was not expecting Ashe of all frames to get a rework. Considering how strong he is, I suppose he has always been a little bit clunky, and some abilities have been less than valuable, but he's overall been a very solid frame for a very long time. I really wish they would have reworked Oberon instead, or even Atlas. Atlas has very little use in his, I think it's his second and his fourth ability. Both of them are really, really bad, but I guess they thought Ash needed a rework before. Oh well. These 4 new Exalted weapons will have a base range of 2.8 meters, which adds directly to the modded ability range on your Warframe, and can also be enhanced with melee mods like Reach. So the range on your Warframe and range mods on your melee will both affect the range of it, which is pretty nice. With their new Exalted status, these weapons are now separately moddable and will benefit from mods that were unavailable to them previously, namely Condition Overload, Melee Elementalist, and Smite faction mods. These new Exalted weapons will receive the same treatment as the changes mentioned above, and should function like all other Exalted weapons, with a few exceptions we'll go over below. Note, these new Exalted weapons will not include an Exilus slot, as the relevant abilities cannot perform heavy attacks, Tennokai, parry, or block. Atlas. Atlas now wields a moddable Exalted weapon, Landslide. Landslide has a pre-installed Orcan Catalyst along with 2 Mana Ray slots. That's going to be the case with all of these. The Catalyst part, they all will have a Catalyst inherently, which makes sense. Landslide's crit chance at base has been increased from 5 to 35%, and its status chance from 5 to 15%. Landslide retains its unique combo counter mechanic instead of using traditional melee combo. Learn more about this in the ability combo counter changes section, and we will go over that once we get down there, but just as a brief explanation, basically all of these abilities that are getting changed to Exalted weapons from Pseudo-exalted will have the same combo count build mechanic as Atlas's Landslide, where when you cast the ability in a row, it builds its own separate combo. And this is for balance reasons, kind of, sort of, but it also ends up making them more powerful, but it's also for consistency's sake. Gara's Shattered Lash is now an Exalted weapon. It gets a Catalyst along with 1 Madurai and 1 Nerimon polarity at base. Shattered Lash now has a crit chance of 20%, a crit multiplier of 2x, and a status chance of 30%. All of this is very important because normally Shattered Lash has 0% crit chance, a 1x crit multiplier, and 0% status chance. So it actually has base stats now, thank God. While its base damage was reduced from 800 to 400 damage. That sounds like a massive nerf. Half damage, trust me, it's not going to matter. It's actually going to end up doing more damage because of the combo count changes, as well as the base stat changes. Kor's Whip Claw is now an Exalted weapon. It gets a Catalyst with 1 Madurai and 1 Vazarin polarity at base. Whip Claw's base damage has been reduced from 300 to 150, also by half. Same as the other stuff, it's going to have its special melee combo counter build up, and the damage is going to end up being a lot higher. Ability combo counter changes. Here we go, more in depth. Since Blade Storm, Landslide, Shattered Lash, and Whip Claw are not channeled Exalted melee weapons, we have devised a new ability combo system specific to these weapons based off of Atlas's existing combo mechanic. Recasting their respective abilities within 5 seconds of the previous cast will now grant you 20 combo points, which will increase the combo multiplier by 1x. We've also increased the ability combo counter cap from 4x to 12x to align with the melee combo counter, meaning subsequent casts can be buffed up to 12 times the damage. By increasing your ability combo counter, your Exalted weapon will receive increased damage based on the ability combo multiplier. This is massive. So much damage. You are going to be able to get so much freaking damage out of these abilities now. It's going to be ridiculous. I've been meaning to do a Gara video for months now, but I put it off, and then they announced these changes, so I kind of had to wait anyways because it was going to be completely out of date as soon as these changes came out. So, you know, maybe we'll do a Gara video finally after the changes happen. Ability damage now scales 1-to-1 with this new ability combo counter instead of a 0.25x multiplier, the melee combo counter with Pseudo-exalted weapons. As a result, we have reduced the base damage of Shattered Lash and Whip Claw to balance with the ability scaler. with the ability to scale higher with the new combo system. These balance adjustments increase the overall damage output when combined with the new combo changes. Mods like Blood Rush, Weeping Wounds, Body Count, as well as focused abilities like Naramon's Power Spike now work with this new system. And then we get the Ashe changes. Ashe's rework, which is I don't want to say substantial necessarily, but it's pretty decently big, I suppose. Base damage of his shurikens has been increased from 500 to 750, a 50% increase. The number of thrown projectiles increased from 2 to 5 shurikens, which release in an arc in front of Ashe and home towards enemies. Enemies hit with shuriken now contribute towards the melee combo counter. So previously, the total damage from throwing the shurikens was 1,000 at base, whereas now it is 3,750, which is a 275% damage increase. It's not as big as it sounds on paper because the base damage is still not that high, considering everything in the game, but still nice because now if you want to try to make a funny shuriken damage build, you can, and just in general, it's going to be a much better ability. Ability 2, Smokescreen, increased the base duration from 8 to 12 seconds. Very nice. And they made the same effect apply to the augment for it that makes your allies go invisible. Teleport, the Fatal Teleport's augment is now part of Teleport and automatically performs finisher on cast with a 200% finisher bonus. The Fatal Teleport augment has now changed to Quicken Teleport. Executing a target with Teleport increases parkour velocity by 30% for 12 seconds. The duration is doubled with a Mercy Kill. Finisher kills performed by Ashe will extend Smokescreen's duration. Mercy kills will reset Smokescreen duration. Very, very nice. Add this in with Smokescreen's changes, it'll be a lot easier to stay invisible constantly without ever having to recast, and you'll be really freaking fast with all the parkour velocity if you end up building strength. Finally, ability 4, Bladestorm. Bladestorm is now an exalted weapon with a pre-installed Orcan Catalyst along with 2 Mannerai polarities. Bladestorm is now considered a dagger, allowing you to equip weapon-specific mods like Covert Lethality. That also means the Amalgam mod that you put on the one rifle, can't remember the name of it, will apply to this as well, I'm assuming. Bladestorm has a crit chance of 5%, a crit multiplier of 1x, and a status chance of 5%. Very, very low. Sad face, kind of wish they made it a little higher. Before, Bladestorm could neither crit nor apply statuses outside of the forced/proc, since finisher damage is already very strong. Bladestorm received a nominal increase for balance. Additional Bladestorm changes include Ashe can mark targets with an increased radius around the reticle. Bladestorm now marks each target only once. Clones will no longer perform 3 finisher attacks on enemies. Instead, they will execute a single attack, allowing the ability to resolve faster. I am a very big fan of that because waiting for them to do 3 attacks on every individual enemy was hell. And that's it for all of these changes. They come out on March 19th and it's March 17th as of the time I'm recording this. This is going to be a lot of stuff, dude. The Pseudo-exalteds, 2-exalteds, the Ashe rework, the Augments, the Arcanes, and most importantly, the Arcanes on Exalteds is going to have a pretty big impact on builds and the meta as a whole, I think. Very, very excited for it. I do still wish they would tune the exalted weapons a little better because some of them are lacking in the stats department looking at you, Balefire, with your measly 5% crit chance. But still, I'll take what I can get. Something is better than nothing, so it is what it is. If you have any interesting thoughts about all of these changes, then make sure to leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear people's opinions on all of this. And soon, hopefully, I'll be making some builds with all of these changes and everything that comes out. In other stuff, other news unrelated to all of the stuff we just went over, this is the first video I've done in like 2 freaking months. I was working on a very long video, then your boy did an oopsie whoopsie and accidentally deleted all of the files for it off of my computer. And because I'm dumb, I had my computer set to automatically empty the trash bin every time something was sent there. It's gone. Very big sad face. it is what it is. I'm just gonna have to restart it. I do still have all the information I retained from like learning to do it, making the video. Really sucks that it happened, but it's not the end of the world. I was just gonna wait till I finish that video and then post it, but because I can't wait, because of financial reasons, I could really use the freaking YouTube paychecks again. I'm going to have to work on that in the background as I go back to making normal videos at the same time. So you can expect normal uploads again after this very long hiatus. Hopefully people will enjoy it. That's pretty much it though, I suppose. I suppose. I keep saying that a lot. Blame it on ReZero. I keep hearing that one girl say it constantly. How do I not remember her name right now? Anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. Adios.